Time to make as many mistakes as I possibly can. Huh. Not having another Hornet is a problem because if I did, I could probably push him to 4. Well, I say probably, but I mean potentially could push him to 4. So for now, let's just do this. Yeah, I'm not gonna call that. At least if it... Yeah, there we go. Hit 17. Not denying ourselves a heal. Still able to hit them potentially. Oh yeah, so another thing you can do instead of running Scorpion is to run the Stag Beetle, because when you play Stag Beetle, it'll just call 2 things from Soul, and you can just stride after that if you want. Which, like, for now, I feel like isn't that big of a deal, you know? But it can be pretty useful. Also, Stag gets big, and then it's plus 15k on top of that, I think, so... Generate yourself some card advantage, bro. Striking. Okay, this is not an awful position to be in. I have 2 in Soul, so... What's the right way to do this? I guess... Did that purely because I'm actually set up to use Scorpion's effect now, right? So try to go about that in the smartest way possible with the information that was presently available. Okay. Wait, what Mustafa? Oh my, mama! Why did I think he was Mustafa? What is wrong with me? All right. No straight. Okay, what do I do here? I kind of wanna. See, now the problem is I don't have a booster. How dare you do this to me? Okay. Putting those back is probably more important. Alright, so now... I should have put him behind, Scorpion. Oh, that's fine. Oops, not that one. Alright, so we take out this, and this, right? 1, 2, 3. So now, both of those guys get plus 3k, so that's a 22k column. $5k. Paralyze is unnecessary, but the stand is. And now we have. Oops. Trigger here doesn't really matter. And I'm hoping this gets PG. I can push them to 4, and yeah. Oh wow. Huh. Interesting. I would have thought that they would be running the, I would have thought they'd be running the other PGs. The new ones. Well, either the new ones or the ones that prevent me from losing to crit. Because it's not like they need to be Limit Break 4, right? Like, you can just use the ends effect. So, what gives? Or is this actually focused on the grade? That would make sense. It's not a crit one. Huh. Okay. Alright. could attempt to do that. I don't feel like that makes much sense though. Yeah, we'll just try. Why not? How many cards do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. I find it hard to believe that they just don't have PGs in hand. That's why they're running the perdition one. Does that even matter? I don't think there's anything that directly searches it out in game for us currently. Sure would be nice if I could draw into one of my war sickles, you know? Being able to paralyze the Vanguard, as it were. Yes, hello, please give me War Sickle now. That's not exactly what I meant, but okay. No reason to stride here. Yeah, like this is also kind of a prime example of why you would want to send on a War Sickle, because not only would you be able to paralyze their Vanguard, right? So in this case, they wouldn't be able to restand, they wouldn't be able to put their cards through their hand, they wouldn't be able to necessarily get all of their PGs and heal guards, right? And then on top of that, if they were going to stride again for any reason, the stride would come in rested, you know? If it was paralyzed. If they, or rather, if they specifically decided not to discard for War Sickle's effect, but did decide to stride, their stride would come in rested, which might still be worth doing for them, because they'd be able to get rid of our intercepts or something like that. But, you know, it's a trade-off that they have to consider, because they're also not getting the triple drive. I honestly would drop Locust for a stride if I had. Because my god. People deny Locust all the time. It honestly sucks. Like, Locust itself doesn't suck, but the fact they deny it sucks. Like, I wouldn't want to use it right now, but if I did, you know. Lucky or unlucky? Hard to say. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Oh, so they're doing the wrong crit. Yeah. I don't know, like the way that Zero functions, it just feels like specifically Overlord decks get so much free value just from existing, I guess. Because their filter is just so free, you know? I'm not saying this to complain about like what's happening right now or anything like that. It's just I look at so many of the clans a lot of the time, and even though you definitely can win with them, it's kind of wild how like the best decks clearly kind of do something similar. They can add a bunch of shit to hand. Duos can put their PGs to hand. Actually, I didn't even check if that heal guard is a duo. It's probably not, but you know. Ah, thank you. Alright, so what do I do? Oh, interesting. Not doing it though. But yeah. So you can definitely beat these decks, but it's just kind of crazy to me that almost all of the best decks have a similar thing going on where they can manage to get a bunch of like cards to hand. Some of them via filtering, which I think is kind of okay to a degree. Like, I don't really think the Overlord decks are necessarily overbearing, right? The problem that I see is more for stuff like Brawlers, because I don't think we got the Brawler nerfs yet, right? So not only does Brawlers get to filter a card for being able to swing at 4 of your units, but then they have that booster that also allows them to filter a card per unit hit. Which is nuts, because, you know, it's pretty fucking easy for them to get into their heals and PGs repeatedly. Which, prior to G, was, you know, one problem, because it's like, oh, okay, I can filter my heals into the drop, and then put them back in the deck so I can potentially check them, you know, which is, like, one thing. But now they can just consistently put the fucking things in their hand, as well, if they really want to. Which is, well, somewhat consistently. Which is a bit much. Gaming. No, we are not in the business of striding. Do I really have to do this? Seems like it. So yeah, even now, right? They have their advantage engine, but we have a way to kind of sort of deal with that. I think I would have been in a much better position if I would have gotten a War Sickle much earlier. But you know, that's out of my control. We did have the PGs though, so that we could afford to do this, even though it's not the best thing. But unfortunately, we also don't have that many cards left in our deck, which is a problem, because I think all of my Scorpions, yeah, 3 are in drop and 1 should be in damage. Oh no, is the other one in the deck? No, it's not. Oh, 300 drop one is in soul, that's right. What is in my... Yeah, screw it. Wasn't guaranteed to get that, but may as well take the risk at this point. And now I can only be fucked by a heal. Why was this game 20 minutes plus? Actually, did I even record this from turn 1? I feel like I didn't. So it was probably longer than that. Holy shit. Man. Alright, let's just look at the deck list right quick. Oh my god. Okay. So I will do my best to explain my decisions here. But I do think that you can do things a bit differently if you so choose. Of course, as many decks are, we are running the heal guards. We're running 6 12Ks. This is because I want the highest chance possible of being able to push my opponent to 4 while they're on grade 1 and I'm on grade 2. This isn't absolutely necessary or anything, but basically you swing with the 12K, you swing with your Vanguard, you swing with a machining Mosquito Mark II, you restand the 12K, and then if the machining Hornet was behind it at 10K, that's a 22K column, your opponent's at 22 if they didn't check any defensives, you've dealt 3 or 4 damage depending on if that last damage was a heal or not. It happens decently often, and the high roll aspect of it really is mostly your opponent not checking defensives, basically. On top of that, I'm running Machining Mantis because it can be 12K on Vanguard Circle, which matters because sometimes you'll swing into your opponent's rear with just like a 9K, not planning to push them to 4 or anything. They'll check a defensive. They're at 17 now because they were on a 7K base grade 1. And now you can't hit them because you're sitting on a 9K and you have a 5K booster, right? So that's why I'm doing this. Running Scorpion both because I want to be able to put my heals and Horsicles back into deck so I can keep rewriting them and stuff, but also because sometimes you need to remake your board, which this can do, though you do need to either have a copy of itself or a Mosquito in hand to do that. Sometimes it is definitely better to pitch the Mosquito because even if you want to use the Mosquito immediately, it does Legion with it, so if you rewrite over it, you're putting a Mosquito into your soul for later use, and pitching one while keeping another copy of the Legion in hand to re-Legion with later has its value, right? Then, of course, Warsicle is the most important card in the deck. I honestly think that you're going to continue running this even when we get Beat Atlas, or if we get Beat Atlas, because of the upgrade it got to its effect. So in a TCG, it would still paralyze the opponent's Vanguard, but that second portion of this first effect that forces them to discard a card if they want to normal ride did not exist in the TCG. It's very impactful in G, as I mentioned during the game, because your opponent, if they want to swing with a stride after you paralyze their Vanguard, they need to discard a card to re-ride into a grade 3, right? And then they need to be able to discard either a stride fighter or another grade 3 to go into that stride. Now, sometimes they'll opt not to discard for this effect and go into the stride anyway, because they want to get the effects off. Like with Blade Master, I've had them do that just so they can pop my intercepts and get 2 swings to face. But not every clan, I think, will be able to do that because, you know, not every clan is going to get strides they can pop. up and stuff, and they're not necessarily going to have stride bonuses that do things to your intercepts. So, it's pretty good. It's pretty good defensive and offensive, kind of. Offensive in the fact that it makes your opponent minus, and defensive in that if they decide not to minus, they can't swing at you. So, taking less damage. But yeah, I've had decent success with this. The biggest thing I would say is, honestly, running Armor Beetle is huge, because being able to put this to soul and make sure it isn't getting swung at by brawlers or isn't getting retired by something is amazing. This is the only draw you have in the deck that isn't like you filtering. Locust is a filter. If you go into a stride, that's a filter. And we currently don't get a whole lot of value out of the strides because they don't really do too much of anything for us. Like, they help if we need the filter, right? Like, if there's something that we want to pitch so we can Legion the next turn, it's cool. I've used it like that before. But for the most part, I don't go into strides with this deck because, yeah, they don't really do too much for our game plan. Armor Beetle over Papillon, both because, again, putting something into soul matters for me, but also because Papillon's 8k gets in the way. I don't want to see her. Even if I can put her to 11k with Hornet, I just really don't want to see her. This is honestly a flex slot. You could run something else here. I just like this card, and it does also have the ability to ignore intercept of paralyzed rear guards when attacking. That's really all I have to say, but I'm going to slap together 2 more builds that I've seen floating around. I have tried them out, and I do think they're okay, but I prefer running this. So, it is what it is, but yeah, those other lists, pretty solid too. Alright, so this is one of the other 2 builds. In this build, you will paralyze your opponent's whole field by utilizing the break ride, sometimes re-riding into itself, but even when you don't, you can re-ride into the machining war sickle, right? You can call out a Papillon or 2, perhaps, to paralyze your opponent's front row intercepts. You can paralyze their Vanguard with the war sickle itself, since it can ignore intercept of paralyzed units. And yeah, you just go to town, really. This thing also ignores intercept, so you can boost it with a Caucasus, right, to get the second paralyze if you already got one off via the Papillon. This build definitely works. I personally just don't care for using it. The other setup is basically just swapping the break ride out for Stag Beetle, because the Stag Beetle will get pretty huge, and while it can't paralyze the opponent's Vanguard, you can still somewhat consistently paralyze their rears via utilizing the Papillons. In that build, though, I guess one difference is I've seen occasionally people would run Red Soldiers. I mean, yeah, not run Red Soldiers. They would run Armor Beetles over Red Soldiers to be able to put the Papillons back into Soul, so that if they re-ride with the War Sickle, they can keep calling them out to keep reusing them. But yeah, very much up to you which of the variations you want to use. Again, while I don't particularly care for this list personally, I haven't had the greatest success with it, right? I have seen other people grinding ladder with it, and they seem to be doing relatively fine.